This is the Geek Speak radio show.
One last interview for Free Comic Book Day, but one last one very special one with the founder. That would be Mr. Joe Field. He's on the phone with us. Joe, welcome back to the Geek Speak radio show.
Great to be with you, Henry.
Good to hear from you again. Let's get right into it. Let's go way back. Well, not that way back, but 10 years ago. What gave you the idea to start Free Comic Book Day?
I saw a long line out in front of my store, and it was for Baskin-Robbins Free Scoop Night. And I thought if they could do it for ice cream, we could certainly do it for comics, because comics are a lot cooler than ice cream. And at the time, I was writing columns for an industry trade magazine called Comics and Games Retailer, and I wrote a column out for that magazine detailing what I was calling at that point Free Comic Night, and then through a series of meetings after that column was released, executives with Diamond and some of the major publishers decided it was a great thing to do, and the feedback from retailers was very positive. So the first Free Comic Book Day was on, May 3rd, 2002, or May 4th, 2000, something like that.
When you first thought of this, did you go to everybody like Marvel, DC, and everybody, or who did you approach with this?
Well, the first thing I did was, because I was proposing that Diamond Distributors would be the coordinators for the event, I went to them, and I had my column ready to go, but before it was published, and had them look it over and give a response to it so it could run in print at the same time as my column did. And their response was very positive, and said that they were going to do some research and talk to some people to see if there was as much enthusiasm from others as they had for it on their own. So that was probably the best thing I could have done, rather than just let an idea go out there and just sort of waft into the ether.
What was the initial reaction from the comic book industry?
Well, the initial reaction from Diamond was really positive, that they thought that the idea was something that might catch fire. And then the response from others, we had a meeting to decide whether we were going to do it in October of 2001. Diamond had one of their retailer summits in Las Vegas, and it was there in a room where I met with publishers' representatives from Marvel, DC, Image, and Dark Horse, as well as executives from Diamond and Maggie Thompson from the Comic Buyer's Guide. And it was decided that it was going to be something that everyone wanted to do, and it was worth getting behind. Yeah, it was just a matter of coming up with a date and coming up with a structure, and that's sort of what happened during the course of that meeting.
And who came up with the idea to time it with the release of the first Spider-Man film?
Well, surprisingly enough, that was then Image publisher Jim Valentino's idea, was to tie it in with directly with the opening weekend of the Spider-Man movie. My initial idea was to run it a little bit earlier, maybe do the second or third week of April. But with the Spider-Man movie opening up the first weekend of May, it was just a natural to tie it in then.
Hi, Jim. He's been on the show a couple of times. Good friend of the show too. Besides timing it with the release of Spider-Man, the very first Free Comic Book Day, at least in your store, what was the reaction from the readers?
Oh, from the start, it's been very positive. Who doesn't love free, and especially when you attach comics to it? I mean, come on, free comics. It's almost as good as money falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
I think that first year we had about 800 people show up for the event, and gave away a lot of comics and had a big party. And since then, we've tried to make it a bigger and better party every single year.
Was that the goal from the beginning, to get old readers back or new readers, or what was the goal of Free Comic Book?
Well, there are three goals. Number one, to attract new readers. Number two, to call back former readers. And number three, to thank current readers. So Free Comic Book Day is kind of that one-size-fits-all promotion that features something for everyone, and comics for anyone, and just a good time is had by all.
Yeah, it was a good time on last Saturday at Flying Colors Comics, which is Joe's store, by the way. The link is up on geekspeakradioshow.com. You guys want to visit it if you're in the San Francisco Bay Area. Make sure you go there. Even if you're not, it's well worth the trip. Trust me. Myself, I've mentioned this on the air many times before. I am one of those readers who used to read on a regular basis before. Them for whatever reason, life got in the way, it dropped off. Then I think it was actually the third free comic book day that got me to come back. Have you seen that? Right. Yeah, have you seen that in your store? Have you seen the regulars drop off a little, whether they go to college or whatever happens, and then in recent years start coming back?
Absolutely. I have anecdotes about that just from this year. A local teacher came in the store after seeing the Thor movie and coming to Free Comic Book Day. He decided that he'd been away for too long and it was time to come back in and make it a weekly trip. So just saw him again yesterday, and I'm sure I'll see him again by the end of the week. But it's, again, talking with you, where you say that it was the third or fourth Free Comic Book Day that brought you back in. I talked to reporters all over the last few weeks leading up to the event, and in a couple of different instances, I heard from one reporter who said that 5 years ago he went into a comic book store in Germany on Free Comic Book Day, and that's what got him restarted. And talked to another reporter in New York that her father brought her to a Free Comic Book Day several years ago, and now it's an annual thing that they do. It's a tradition for them to go together to Free Comic Book Day. And when I hear things like that, I know it's working.
Yeah, you mentioned Germany. That reminded me. I did a few interviews a week leading up to Free Comic Book Day with stores all over the country, and even a bar in Australia who participated in Free Comic Book Day. Around what, from the beginning, was it meant to be international? When did it become an international event?
I think it was international from the start. It's essentially any retailer that deals directly with Diamond comic distributors could participate in the event. For those in other countries in which the shipping of books it takes a little bit longer to get there, I think in some cases they've had to make considerations for moving the date to a week later or whatever if they couldn't get the books on time. But I think pretty much now everyone does it on the first Saturday in May, and except for those countries like I believe Italy has not only the imported comics from the United States, the English language versions, but they also do versions in Italian for their Free Comic Book Day. And I believe there are a couple of other countries that do Free Comic Book Day editions in their native languages as well. So those might throw the days off a little bit, but yeah, from the start it was open to anyone any of the retailers who deal with Diamond, who deal with the English language comics, and wanted to be a part of the event.
Myself, now that I have kids myself, we have a regular trip to the library. When 20-something years ago, when I used to go to the library, there were no comic books or graphic novels anywhere in the library. Now there's an entire section for graphic novels and comic books. So they are really being accepted and being used as a tool in schools, especially.
Absolutely. We've done a lot of work to get comics used in schools in our area, and one of the things that we find is that comics are the perfect material for kids who are visual learners. It uses text and pictures to tell the full story. So it makes a whole lot of sense to use comics in the classroom, particularly because kids are exposed to so much visual stuff that they learn better with visuals, and comics are a great way to do that. Personally,
my son, he actually learned to read by reading my old Spider-Man comic books.
All right.
I asked you this question at WonderCon when we were there for that. This one, more appropriately, 10 years later, how do you feel about what Free Comic Book Day has become?
Well, I'm really satisfied with where things are, and then we'll look at next year and try to get even more satisfied about what goes on then. I think what we have is something that is getting close to being an international holiday for comics, and it would be nice to further institutionalize that if we could, get more stores involved with it if we could, and get more countries involved with it, but mostly just get more people into it. I won't be completely satisfied until everyone's a regular comic book reader and enjoying the same kind of stuff that we do on a week-by-week basis.
Not every store participates in Free Comic Book Day, so you do have to check in with your local, see if they are.
Sure, and they're in the U.S. and Canada, there are probably 300 or 400 stores that choose not to participate in Free Comic Book Day, and that's their choice, and I can't do a whole lot about that. All I can do is show them the numbers that somewhere between 300 and 500,000 people show up for this event, so it might not be a bad idea to be on board that wagon, because we're rolling full steam ahead.
Joe Field, who's the founder of Free Comic Book Day, 10 years strong. One last personal question, or not question, but just a personal thing before I do let you go. The first time
Sure.
you and I met, you and I both talked about our love for Fringe. We just had the season finale. What did you think?
I was just talking about that a little bit earlier today. I was so relieved that we didn't end the season 15 years in the future, that whole thing was wrapped up right then. I'm totally on board for next season. The way I look at it is, as I mentioned to some of my friends, that Fringe is the greatest Mobius band of a TV show ever. It just twists and turns inside and outside, and it's sometimes can be a little bit difficult to follow all of the nuances, but knowing some of the intricacies of the details that are there on the screen really makes it a terrific experience. And while I'm at it, let me recommend the Fringe comics that are out there, which is another great way to dive deeper into the whole Fringe experience, because the producers and writers of the show are involved with doing the Fringe comics. And so now that it's on summer vacation, maybe you get a little hit of Fringe by picking up the Fringe comics.
Find those at Flying Colors Comics and other cool stuff. Joe's store, 2980 Treat Boulevard in Concord. FlyingColorsComics.com is the website, or just go to ours, geekspeakradioshow.com. All the links are on there. We were there at Free Comic Book Day, waiting in line, people behind us, in front of us. We were all talking about Fringe, the finale also. We all have our theories, so yeah, it is a great show.
Henry, tell me one more thing. Now, when you were waiting in line, did you have a good time waiting in line here?
Absolutely. I didn't even notice how long we waited in line.
One of the things that we try to do is make it an experience, even waiting to get the comics, by bringing in the costume characters, by having you out there interviewing people, by having the photographer out there and the kids strolling through who are singing their Free Comic Book Day song, which you can also see up on YouTube. It's called First Saturday in May at Flying Colors by Cyrus Rajeski and his brother Isaiah. You want to check that out. That's a really cool little video.
Yeah.
One of the things that we really try to do is make it a good experience, make it even better than waiting in line for a ride at Disneyland. So we hope we're able to accomplish that.
Yeah, and it was. I mean, the people, like I said, people in front of us, behind us, and we walked, among everybody there from front to back. Everybody was enjoying themselves. Plus, you got Fringe to talk about, the comic books. Is this your first Free Comic Book Day? Is it your 10th? All that stuff. And there was also Captain Jack Sparrow and Wonder Woman were walking around the line too.
Right, and people were talking about the Thor movie and. Yeah. Green Lantern coming up and all of that kind of good stuff. So yeah.
So you're among family and friends, basically, is what it is on that line.
Yeah, exactly, and that's what we're hoping, is that more people make friends within comics so that they'll want to keep on coming back.
Yeah, and I've said it many times last week and during the interviews. When you have non-reading friends, bring them with you on Free Comic Book Day. Introduce them that way.
Yeah, or any old day of the week.
Yeah.
Now that Free Comic Book Day is almost a year away. Bring them in any old day of the week, and we'll find them something that they like to read.
Yeah, so again, Joe Field, founder of Free Comic Book Day, and you can also see him, say hello. Flying Colors Comics and other cool stuff, 2980 Treat Boulevard in Concord, flyingcolorscomics.com, the website. Visit them. Really cool place. We've been there a few times. So, Joe, thanks a lot for coming on and letting us know the history of Free Comic Book Day.
Thanks, Henry, and keep those 4-color comics flying.
Most certainly will. Thanks a lot, Joe.
Okay, thanks, Henry. Bye-bye.